following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are indeed very proud this afternoon on November 15th, 1953, to be able to project this initial test pattern to you. We invite you to use this test pattern so that you can adjust your set for the best possible reception of KWWL TV.
Welcome to our 40th anniversary special.
You know, when the show opened, you heard our founder, R.J. McElroy, Mac, utter the very first words ever heard on Channel 7.
That was for a test pattern, believe it or not, back on November 15th, 1953. The station actually went on the air later that month, November 29th, 1953.
But before that message was ever heard, there was a big battle over who would broadcast TV in Waterloo. The year was 1952. Joe Dumond had started building a TV station at KXWL Radio in Waterloo, long before the FCC would decide on his application. When the feisty and fiery R.J. McElroy of KWWL Radio said he wanted those same TV rights, Dumond took to the airwaves to sway public opinion.
Good evening, friends. During the week, the question asked most often of the people associated with KXWL is, when are we going to have television in Waterloo?
Then, unknown to Dumond, two of McElroy's employees tape-recorded a speech he gave to the local exchange club.
I can say this much, and I think you have a right to know. I think it is an insult to your intelligence to assume that you're gullible. I do not assume that, gentlemen, and I'm going to be honest with you.
Dumond called for a boycott against McElroy's radio station. McElroy sued. A young, aggressive attorney named Robert Buckmaster handled McElroy's case.
The courthouse was packed daily with lawyers and spectators and everybody that knew that there was a little local history being made.
After that tape surfaced in court, Dumond gave in. McElroy got the TV license and ironically got to broadcast out of KXWL's new TV studio. They went on the air November 29th, 1953.
We had no idea what it was all about, and everybody they were just green, you know, and it was a learning experience for everybody, but it was fun, exciting.
And Lyle Harvey, known as radio personality Joe Dokes, was one of the station's founders. He picked the call letters KWWL.
There's two W's there, KW, and WL is Waterloo. That was my mind, but I don't think anybody ever picked up on it.
Working for R.J. McElroy was not a bed of roses. He was demanding, yelled quite a bit, and would often hire two people for one job. His motto was hire the best at the cheapest. Naoma McElhaney tried to quit several times.
I'd get mad at him, and I quit. I'm not going to put up with this stuff, you know. So I'd write out my letter of resignation. He put it in his center desk drawer, and when I left, the whole center desk drawer was filled with my letters of resignation.
She says he also had a heart of gold. McElroy was respected for his aggressiveness, his authority. He was a great salesman, someone who could get things done. TV in 1953 was simple. There were no experts in the field. Bill Bolster, KWWL's former general manager, now at New York's WNBC, remembers when his father was one of the stockholders.
It was Mac and my dad taking me out to a cornfield in Jessup and showing me them building their first tower, because up until then, they had used this very small tower and probably only served an area about 30 miles all around the KXWL transmitter. And so then they put this tower in Jessup, and my, were they proud of that tower in Jessup.
In 1958, the station moved to its current home, 500 East 4th Street. What had been a car dealership was remodeled and turned into a TV station. It was at this location that things really took off.
They built the 2,000-foot tower that you currently broadcast off of, and that really made KWWL a competitive television station in eastern Iowa. Up until then, it was WMT who kind of was the dominant television station, and then two also ran.
Then in 1965, at age 55, R.J. McElroy died. His entrepreneurial spirit lived on as Bob Buckmaster was named to head the company. Buckmaster is credited with making KWWL an even better business. Buckmaster died in May. And there was another image that Eastern Iowans will remember about Mac.
That's right, Liz, kind of his Man on the Street segment, a program which Mac originally hosted on radio and made popular here on television, called The Voice of Northeast Iowa. Mac's program was sponsored by the old Allsted and Langless Baking Company in Waterloo, the makers of clean-made bread. Usually the show was done at Black's department store corner. On this particular day, McElroy was in front of KWWL. Now notice the old cameras they were using back then. His segment always started this way. Some facts you have to know to make your daily grind, but there are facts you ought to know to broaden out your mind. Now this program had a lot of chit-chat, and McElroy posed questions like this. Which city in the world covers the most ground? What is Jack Benny's wife's name? And who is Red Grange? Now, Mac's response to any correct answer was always right as clean made. Each person who appeared received a miniature loaf of bread. And perhaps you noticed during the piece that this was the actual microphone that Mac used during that program. This thing is really heavy. The technology, we could say, has changed significantly over the years, huh? Yeah.
Dramatically.
Look at this thing. Talk about an antique, huh?
Well, when we come back, we'll show you a few antiques, some people who helped Channel 7's ratings soar, and who is this man and why did we ever let him do the weather?
After 15 years, I gotta admit, I still love Iowa. I still miss Iowa, and I still miss all of you. It's been...
"40 years of television." That's what we're celebrating here tonight on Channel 7.
You know, when KWWL became an NBC affiliate back in the 1950s, the station certainly carried some memorable and historic programs. KWWL became an NBC affiliate and aired some noteworthy shows.
RCA Victor and its dealers present Burr Tillstrom, creator of Kukla, Ollie, and all the Kuklapolitan players.
Kukla, Fran, and Ollie originated in Chicago and was seen on the network from 1949 until 1954.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Some of you may remember the first Dragnet based on actual case histories from the LAPD. Jack Webb, of course, was Detective Sergeant Joe Friday, and Ben Alexander played Officer Frank Smith.
Hot. Yeah, sure is.
And here he is, the one, the only.
He's a waste of time.
Oh, that's me.
At 8 o'clock, viewers gathered around the TV to see Groucho Marx in You Bet Your Life, some of the funniest TV ever. Ventriloquist Paul Winchell had his own show with dummies Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith. There was Howdy Doody, Ding Dong School, and Queen for a Day. Wally Cox played the mild-mannered Mr. Peepers.
Yes, and there's worlds more than just fun and entertainment on your television set. Exciting things that you should see if you belong in this changing, frightening, fascinating world of ours.
The first news show was with John Cameron Swayze. It was only 15 minutes long. Chet Huntley and David Brinkley came on the scene in 1956. The Today Show hit the airwaves as early as 1951 with 26 NBC affiliates. This is the first broadcast. And the classic Tonight Show was hosted by Steve Allen, Jack Parr, and of course, Johnny Carson. Here's a brief look at some of the other shows.
The Roy Rogers Show, starring Roy Rogers, King of the Cowboys, Trigger, his Golden Palomino, and Dale Evans, Queen of the West. The Match Game. And here is the star of Jeopardy, Art 20. It's the new Fred Allen Show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Judge for Yourself.
Name that cue. People are funny.
Well, those are just some of the exciting things that your television set will bring you. Remember, of course, you don't have to own a television camera to see this, because everything that goes in this end will come out right in your own living room, right on your own television screen. And I hope you look for me, too.
Some of those shows are really classics, and I especially enjoy the news footage. Huh?
Oh, so did I. News became the backbone of local television stations. Here's how it started on Channel 7. Ed Falk was the very first reporter for KWWL TV. His news desk was, let's say, functional, and others who presented the news and weather with him were colorful and entertaining, including local sportscaster Claire Rampton. Falk recently visited the station and talked about the nearly impossible news gathering back then.
We had absolutely nothing. None of us had ever seen a camera, a TV camera, and then we finally got somebody from Chicago, and he came in, and we started to gradually add equipment. Our equipment is a speed graphic camera, and then we finally got a 16mm movie camera.
What'd you do? Did you have beats?
Right. I had the city hall and the police department, so forth. Then we got a couple kids and 50 hours a week and nights. I used to open up the 7:30 news and do the 10 o'clock news at night.
How about your deadlines? Can you think of any time when you were under a deadline and didn't quite make it?
We probably about 30 seconds, 40 seconds late, yeah. It's called fill-in.
KWWL television.
Throughout the years, the news has had changes in personnel and technical advancements. From black and white to full color, from still photo and film to video, via satellite, microwave, and fiber optics. News gathering is a much different animal now. Just ask this man, retired news director Grant Price, who was primarily responsible for turning KWWL news ratings around. Price says those frustrating film days were forgotten with a big step into video.
Using film in news work in a local news operation was just it probably gave me the warped personality that I've had ever since, because after dealing with that frustration, you never could be normal again.
And that's really light.
For local station news operations, despite your live truck and the use of satellite trucks and all of the stuff that you have today, the videotape technology was the thing that really put local news departments into business in a way that that what they were able to do really classy looking work and do it so much more efficiently.
And then there were the personalities. Who could forget this face? A 17-year-old weatherman just wet behind the ears, Waterloo native Jim Ganal worked with news anchors Tom Peterson, Jim Hawker, and Kathy Spielman. Sportscasters Mike O'Connor and, yes, even Ron Steele. Ganal helped Channel 7 begin its steady rise to #1 status in this market. Jim is now at WCMH in Columbus, Ohio.
Why'd I get in weather? Because of Conrad Johnson. Remember him at WMT? I was 12, 13 years old at the time and loved watching Conrad on TV. And so that's why I started to do weather. I started before I even went to college. I was 17 years old. And the remarkable thing about that was I never once in high school ever got in front of the school assembly, ever was out in front of a crowd. And here I was doing weather on TV at 17, one of the youngest in the country.
Chairman of the Iowa Commerce
And reporters
Commission.
have changed too. This is Dave Sparks, now a Waterloo stockbroker. Pam Hildebrand, a TV producer in Chicago. And yes, this is a very serious Gary Sarnoff.
Incident was discussed, but both
A ratings coup occurred in 1979 when this popular young meteorologist was released from WMT-TV and scooped up by KWWL the very next day. Craig Johnson brought his viewers with him, and the ratings took off.
Good evening.
Another boost came when Ron Steele moved from sports to news anchor. And in another move to keep up with viewer trends, the 6 and 10 o'clock news was co-anchored for the first time beginning in 1981.
A new and more powerful antenna.
This is Iowa's News Channel.
And today we produce 28 different newscasts a week. Our equipment is state-of-the-art. Much of it is computerized.
Cedar Rapids residents will soon have
Instead
a new
of
place
the
to
meager original staff of 15, we now have almost 100 employees. And the new staff has grown from 1 in 1953 to almost 30.
We might add that the retired Grant Price is now teaching at Wartburg College in Waverly, and Tom Peterson is news director at WGN Radio. Kathy Spielman is an attorney.
All three were really big contributors to the success overall of Channel 7. You know, you mentioned ratings. The ratings actually are surveys that show exactly how many people are watching us. We have a 40-year survey to show you tonight. It's kind of interesting. This shows how many total adults were watching Channel 7's 6 o'clock news. Look back in the 1960s. Only 15,000 viewers were tuned to Channel 7. Can you believe that? The 70s then began an uphill climb. Remember, a new, higher tower was built for Channel 7. Also, KWWL was the first to go to color television. Now, the 1980s produced a big gain for news numbers here at Channel 7, but then with cable competition, a big decline in population, the advent of a lot more newscasts and working families, the 90s numbers are showing some actual leveling off for us.
And look at this, a TV contract with Hawkeye basketball in the 80s delivered the biggest audiences on Channel 7. In one season, 2 out of every 3 people in eastern Iowa watched those games.
The things that happened was that women began to join those numbers in very large numbers. As you know, historically, sports have been pretty male-dominated as far as audience is concerned. Women loved Lute Olson, they loved the Iowa basketball team, and so the women component of the demographics just went through the roof, and it was really exciting. Those were exciting times.
Bump Elliott said to me, if you put this on television, there won't be any crowds that'll come to see it live. So without anybody's authorization, I said to Bump, I'll tell you what, if you'll do this 2 games this year, and next year, if we do a television game and there are any empty seats, Blackhawk Broadcasting will buy every empty seat. I have no idea what financial risk I ran in saying that, but I did. I don't think I ever told Harry that until this very moment.
And of course, that Hawkeye commentator, our good friend Bob "Oh My" Hogue, he has a tough job now. He's out in Honolulu, Hawaii. He's been broadcasting out there doing the sports for a number of years now.
Now, you did the sports, and didn't you do the first 3 Hawkeye games?
Believe it or not, a lot of people don't remember this. Actually, I did the first 3 play-by-play games that we did on television here on Channel 7, and that would become then the Iowa Television Network the following season when Bob Hogue came in, yeah.
And what a success. Well, when we come back, do you remember Romper Room?
Saying hello to all the boys and girls who are here in Romper Room School today. And hello to all of our
Welcome back to our 40th anniversary special.
You know, of course, live studio programs are a big part of the history of every local station.
Galloping, Mr. Music, and boys and girls at home.
The Romper Room was actually seen in several markets nationwide, and the local host for Romper Room was Miss Bonnie, Bonnie Noonan of Cedar Falls. Commercials were produced in the studio, and they were live. Any mistakes were permanent, no second takes here.
Right, good for you. That's Colgate with MFP, boys and girls.
Remember this show? The First PM Magazine with Diane Caraway and Mike Corbett.
You can question the decision makers at
Broadcasting and You gave viewers a chance to call in their questions about KWWL. That show was seen 4 times a year.
Steele, Mathis, and Carter, the anchor reporters.
The news department, of course, produced an immeasurable amount of programming. Iowa Illustrated, however, was the most popular. Our local answer to 60 Minutes.
Harvesting fear, the radical right plants the seeds of violence.
And in 1980, several Black Hawk Broadcasting holdings, including KWWL, were purchased by AFLAC, American Family Life Assurance Company, based in Columbus, Georgia. The price tag was $44 million.
Not a bad payoff for the original investors here within the community, that's for sure. Stick around, and a little bit later we're going to tell you about the future of television.
And at the end of the show, Channel 7 bloopers. You won't want to miss them.
Welcome back. Tonight we're taking a look at 40 years of television here on KWWL Channel 7.
We've had a lot of successes, but we had one major disaster when our tower was felled by ice in November 1983. Channel 7 went off the air until a backup tower could fire up. A new, higher tower was constructed the very next year.
Higher, better, and more advanced. That, of course, is the way of television. But I guess we could ask tonight the question, what about the future of television? Will there be local television news in the future?
Probably not the way we know it. Here's a vision from current General Manager Jim Waterbury.
We may not be broadcasting. We may be sending our signal down a wire. We may be sending our signal up through a satellite. We may package our signal to somebody else who distributes it for us. And we may be out of the technology into the business altogether in terms of signal distribution. On the other hand, I think there's a real good possibility that 10 years from now, broadcasters may be sending down 6 or 8 signals over our broadcast channel, and you'll be able to pick and choose from them the way you can on cable channels right now.
Some pretty interesting thoughts about what's going to happen in the future. Let's move from Jim's vision now to what we might call our no-brainer section, huh?
Yeah, there are just some times that you have to laugh at yourself, along with a few thousand viewers.
Coming up next, bloopers, Channel 7 style.
Weather Service radar from Waterloo is temporarily out of service. That happened in the last couple.
I guess we could say just about everybody loves bloopers, huh?
Here's how the staff has goofed off and goofed up.
National Weather Service radar from Waterloo is temporarily out of service. That happened in the last couple of moments.
I'm Ron Steele. Our summer commitment.
Jones, who broke over left tackle and into a wide-open secondary. On the PGA Tour, Howard Pitty, make that Twitty, won the Greater Hartford Open tournament today.
Story from Sacramento, California. Tom? Tom Brokaw, you can go ahead anytime. Well, as you can see, we're having difficulty with our communications with California.
The weather could have been better, but a lot of the golf couldn't have been. At today's Amana VIP in Iowa City, there was some great play and some horseplay here, too. And at Finkbine, hello, Bob Hogue followed the action. He has a story.
It's on the floor now.
And he joins us live now with more. Brent?
Well, Chris, right now the sun's beaming bright and it's actually dry.
I was going to say that's a little bit long for me. Why don't I have, why doesn't lips? Hey, let's have lips pick it up.
And before we go, I want to remind you to give congratulations to Ron Steele when you see him the next time. He'll be celebrating 20 years with Channel 7 on April 1st of next year.
That really is hard to believe. 20 years seems like a long time. It seems like yesterday, though, when I came here in 1974. And maybe you've heard me say this before in speaking engagements, but you know, without you, we don't exist. So Liz and I both say thank you from all of us here at KWWL. Thanks for watching us tonight and every night over these past 40 years.